Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets. So you can subscribe to the channel and get notifications whenever a new video is uploaded. First and foremost, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. It's the first video of 2021. I hope you and your loved ones have a blessed year, and hopefully it's a lot better than 2021. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk about the fantastic fight that's coming up between Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. Both guys weighed in at 135 pounds. I'm very surprised by the narrative of this fight. It seems to be as though it's almost portrayed in a sense as I don't know, as though it's almost like a foregone conclusion in a way, certainly the United States, which is unusual, because Luke Campbell's being underrated now. In the past, Ryan Garcia was underrated. He was considered this insta-famous kid who was just a YouTube sensation by many people in the boxing world. And now all of a sudden everybody's high on him. So it's just this unbelievable transition. So let's talk about this for a minute. He's a we'll start with Ryan Garcia. He's a very, very talented kid. He's got wonderful hand speed, really, really good timing, and he carries power too. And when you marry those three things together, you're creating a very, very significant trident of danger. Having fast hands is one thing. Timing can beat speed. But when you marry speed with power, you've got a very dangerous man. When you marry that with timing, well, now it's no longer just a dangerous missile. Now it's a guided missile. Okay, so this is a very, very dangerous man. Despite the way he looks, he's a 22-year-old, very good-looking kid. He looks a bit like the main character in Cobra Kai for those 80s kids out there who might have been watching Karate Kid back in the day. I know you guys have been watching the remake. Don't come to me with all this tough guy stuff. I know you've been watching the remake. I know I have. I'm not going to lie. It's all about that Cobra Kai third season. I know it's out. I'll be watching it. Don't worry. But because of that and the sort of kid that he is, the way he looks, he gets a lot of, female fans, and for whatever reason that seems to rub up a lot of people the wrong way. All you have to do is go and look at a Justin Bieber video and look at the comments below, and you'll see how many people are hating on the guy. It's really unusual, when someone's a pretty boy, say, and they're good looking, people for some reason seem to really hate on them. I personally don't have that problem. He's a good looking kid. Good luck to the kid. What do you want from me? He's not coming after my girl, so good luck to the kid. And because of that, though, people did sort of saw him as a gimmick, a kid who would just be insta-famous, flashing these fast hands. But this kid's a real deal. He's a real deal. He's got a lot of talent there. 17 knockouts from 20 victories. Very good timing, like I said. His money punch is his left hook. He's got a really nice, crisp piston jab too. Shoots it out there. Really, really fast jab. Really, really talented kid. That's not to say he doesn't have weaknesses. One of the weaknesses he has is that he fights quite upright. And when he fights upright, he pulls back quite a lot. And as he's pulling back, he's still throwing punches. And his power still carries when he's moving backwards, which is another dangerous thing for a puncher to have. There are a lot of punchers who need that leverage to develop power, throwing that shot forward. Think David Lemieux, for instance. This guy doesn't. He can throw that power moving backwards. So he's dangerous moving back or forwards, but he is upright and he does fight with that chin in the air. And he could come up against a guy who's going to be, quite low, feinting his way in, and then shoot shots from a low trajectory that you don't see coming, that come upright, whether they're wide hooks or straight shots from a low position. And as he's upright and he's stepping back, he could end up getting caught. Think Gervonta Davis, which is interesting that he's calling Gervonta Davis out. Having said that, that's not a foregone conclusion either, because Davis gets hit a lot. And, this guy isn't Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz was landing a lot of shots on Gervonta Davis. We know what a good fighter Santa Cruz is. But in terms of sheer punching power and, things like reach and height and stuff like that, he's not Santa Cruz. So if he starts landing these shots on you, one of the reasons I'm digressing a little bit here from this particular fight, but one of the reasons I preferred the Povetkin knockout over Tank's knockout is because of the setup, the build-up to it. Povetkin's was very, very smart. It was a beautifully executed knockout. Whereas Gervonta Davis, if you look at the build-up, he eats a flush right hand. Then he partially blocks another one, but it seems to clip him. Then he slips the third one and lands the right hand with Santa Cruz leaning over that lead leg as he's throwing that right hand. We've spoken about that technical error that he made. Now, you can't eat two flush shots, or one flush shot and then one partial shot, say from Ryan Garcia. If Ryan Garcia landed two solid straight jabs, or perhaps a left hook or something like that, you're not walking straight through that and thinking, okay, now I'm going to slip the next one, just walking down and slip the next one and throw the uppercut. So that becomes a very interesting fight for a whole bunch of other reasons. A great fight I'd love to see one day. But Luke Campbell doesn't fight that way. However, That's not to say that Luke doesn't have his own arsenal of very dangerous weapons. People are talking like Luke Campbell's some washed up guy. Listen, Luke Campbell was an Olympic gold medalist. They do not just hand those away, guys. Okay, he's a very talented fighter, and it's not as though he was an Olympic gold medalist and then he turned up at the pro game and he suddenly flopped. So this is a guy with 20 wins, 16 knockouts of the 20 wins. He does have 3 defeats on his record, and unusually, Antonio Tarver messaged Eddie Hearn to say, come on, Eddie, because Eddie Hearn predicted a 9th round knockout win for Luke. And he said, come on, Eddie, no guy with 3 L's is going to beat Ryan Garcia. I found that extraordinary. First and foremost, Antonio, didn't you have first 2 defeats and then 3 defeats with your 2 wins over Roy Jones Jr.? What do L's have to do with anything? You know, the narrative of Floyd Mayweather has really ruined people's minds. This idea that if you take an L, you're done. A lot of the times, taking an L is what helps you improve as a fighter. Top fighters learn on the job. Canelo Alvarez is not the same fighter now that fought Floyd Mayweather. This Canelo destroys that Canelo inside a round or 2. And I'm not exaggerating. I believe this Canelo destroys that Canelo inside early in the fight. I think he walks him down and beats him up. Now, maybe not a round or 2, maybe that is exaggerating, but I believe he stops him early in the fight, the first 6 rounds. You learn from it, you improve, you move on. Tony Bellew took some losses before he became a completely different fighter. Guys learn on the job, okay? This is what top fighters do. Anthony Joshua, we've seen how he's improved with his movement compared to the guy that fought Ruiz. He's a different fighter. Well, Luke Campbell has lost to elite level opposition in the latter part of his career. Only elite level opposition. Jorge Linares was one of the pound for pound top 10 or 15 fighters offensively speaking. If you're just judging attacks, the way he put his hands together, his movement, what a beautiful fighter Jorge Linares was. And he lost a split decision against him. He then lost to the great Vasyl Lomachenko. Okay, that was his last fight. We're talking about Lomachenko. Like, people are talking as though this guy's done. Now, I know a lot of people will point to Ivan Mendy and say, well, Ivan Mendy was a 7.5 to 1 underdog. First and foremost, that was back in 2015. Like I said, you can learn from defeats. But secondly, those that have subscribed for a long time and would have been following, you know, when I was still doing before at Bet Boxing channel on Twitter, I was speaking about boxing on the at Chris Andre 6 channel. And I basically said on the night of the fight, 7.5 to 1 on Ivan Mendy is just a ridiculous price. You've got to get on that. So it wasn't a surprise to me. I knew Ivan Mendy could cause an upset on that night. And he did. And he won again via split decision. It was a very different style of fighter to what Garcia is, though. And again, styles make fights. And he was learning on the job and so on and so forth. He came back and he avenged that defeat. So he learned from that defeat. Okay, so let's not talk as though Luke Campbell is somehow, you know, gone onto the pros and he's suddenly been exposed by mid-level guys. Bar Ivan Mendy, which was early in his career, he has only been beaten by elite-level guys, and he gave a very, very good account of himself. A very good account of himself on both occasions. So if you're talking about resume, if you're talking about experience at the highest level, technical knowledge, Luke Campbell wins this fight. Where Ryan Garcia excels is in those is in those physical areas. The speed, the punching power, the hand speed rather, the punching power, the timing's excellent. That's, I guess, more of a mental thing. It's hand-eye coordination. But the point is, this isn't going to be some sort of mismatch. This is a very good fight that could go either way, even though it's not being portrayed that way. Now, let's talk about this from a little bit more of a technical perspective. Let me sit up a little bit. I'm going to use my right hand to show you because I've picked up a shoulder injury with my left hand. I'm getting too old now to be, you know, doing the athletic pursuits that I used to do. Where you're going full out, you can pick up all sorts of injuries now. It's time to retire. But so I'm going to use my right hand. What he's very good at, there are different ways that you can throw a hook, right? A number of ways, obviously, when you're retreating. One of the beautiful things about Ryan Garcia is that he maintains his power as he's retreating, which is a very hard thing to do, to punch hard off of the back foot. Now, the way Tony Bellew will throw a hook, for instance, as he'll throw that left hook, he'll dip out of the center line. His elbow might come up quite high. He'll dip out of the center line. The elbow will come high. And if you throw a punch, he's no longer where he used to be. Mike Tyson, for instance, with his lead hook, he would almost take a step out and then have a massive rotation with that shot. It's almost as though he's creating enough rotation as though he's throwing a backhand hook. So he takes a huge step out and swings at it, opens up his entire torso and swings at it, but he comes out of that center line again, steps out, bang, he's gone from where he was. With Ryan Garcia, he'll stay in that center line and he stays quite upright. And it's almost as though he disconnects that right shoulder, that right arm from the body. It's not, like I said, it's not even a Danny Garcia type hook. He stays in that center line. He'll almost like disconnecting that body. He'll often throw it from a low position so you don't see it coming as well. Just like there, he's not throwing it from up here. It's quite a low sort of hook. And he'll step out and bang. He'll catch you as you're coming in. Okay, it comes from almost like a shovel hook, and it's coming from this direction, bang, but he's in that center line. And the way he does it is he wants to maintain that range, and that's where the timing comes in. He'll take a step back and do it. Bop, short, little right hand, step back, bang. And that left hook. So he'll take that little step back, just catch you with a little short shot that looks like nothing, but it's a devastating shot. Because he doesn't exit that center line, if you can bypass that hook, bypass that phase of attack, you've got an opening on him. Now, so far, no one's been good enough to do that. But as he goes through the quality and category, you're going to be able to have guys that are going to feint and understand angles. And if there's one thing Luke Campbell can do, it's feint and understand angles. They're both very good feinters, by the way. Especially Ryan Garcia, actually. He throws a lot of feints. But Luke understands angles and he'll be in and out. He'll be drawing the shots, pretending to come in, step out, waiting for you to throw a shot and then come back in. And what he does very well, Luke Campbell, if you see his fight against Algenis Mendez, one thing you'll see that he does quite often is move towards the outside of that lead shot. So he's a southpaw up against an orthodox fighter, so he'll be in this stance here. The orthodox fighter is also same sort of stance, so the lead hands are close to each other. He'll constantly move outside of that lead hand, and what he wants to do is either come with his own lead shot round the back of the lead hand, potentially to line you up with that left hand, and then come down the middle with that left hand. That could work well if he's able to take away the left hand of Ryan Garcia. If he takes away the left hand of Garcia, he's got serious problems. But that's harder to do than you think, for the reasons I've said. Speed, timing, power. And apart from that dangerous trident, as he's moving out towards the left hook, he's moving into a danger zone. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does want to come out consistently or come in and out in straight lines to try and stay on the inside of that, to try and work his way on the inside of that hook. If he does and he starts moving towards the right hand, starts falling into the line of the right hand, he's potentially in trouble again. So there's a lot of obstacles that he needs to overcome, but he has the understanding of angles, the understanding of timing, how to draw a fighter out. This is by far the biggest test Ryan Garcia has had in his career. He hasn't fought anybody close to the skill set of Luke Campbell in the pro game. Vasyl Lomachenko gave a really, really good interview. In fact, let me pause this 2 seconds and tell you who it was with an account called Snow Queen LA. And I think it's in Ukrainian, it might be in Russian, but they're speaking in a language, obviously, he's very comfortable in. I think it's Ukrainian. And he's talking about sparring. He talks about Teofimo Lopez and what he thought of the judging and how he felt it was either a draw or 7-5 to him. And, he'd love the rematch, but he doesn't think it will happen anytime soon. And as a result, he'd rather fight Tank Davis. He'd want to fight Tank Davis next if he can't get that Lopez rematch. He goes on to say that he's asked about this fight. And he says, listen, he's fought Luke Campbell, obviously, and that he knows what he's doing in the ring. He sparred Ryan Garcia in the past, who came to a camp of his, and he just says, essentially, he's very, very confident that Luke Campbell wins this fight as long as he's healthy, because he's had COVID, and if there are no after effects of COVID in terms of, any sort of chesty issue with his lungs, that, he wins the fight. So Lomachenko's picking Campbell. And so you have to understand, when it comes to sheer understanding of the fight game, in my opinion, this is a mismatch in favour of Luke Campbell. But then again, physically, in terms of what you offer, in terms of offensive power, speed, timing, I think Ryan Garcia is definitely the superior danger. So how does this fight go? I personally believe Ryan Garcia will either win the fight early in the first 6 rounds, 7 rounds. He'll start 8 rounds in that sort of region. It all depends on how consistently and often he's landing. If he's able to land and Luke Campbell's not able to bypass that piston jab and left hook, and he can't find a solution to that, then I think Ryan Garcia wins the fight. There's an interesting statistic that you guys need to think about. According to CompuBox, Luke Campbell only gets hit with 10.5 punches per round, but he's been down 4 times in these last 9 fights. Now that suggests, even though he doesn't get hit a lot, he goes down quite often. Now, like I said, he's been in there with excellent opposition, but nonetheless, you have to ask the question, how durable is he? The fact that he doesn't go down, consistently, doesn't get knocked out rather consistently, is probably down to the fact that he's a very, very good defensive fighter. He's never been stopped. But the fact that he's gone down consistently might suggest that, if you're able to land, that maybe he wouldn't be as durable as some other fighters that you would consider to be solid, durable fighters. So the question is, if Ryan Garcia is able to marry that speed, timing and power, then this could end up being a washing of Luke Campbell. It can end up happening early. If it doesn't though, and it becomes a straight up boxing match, what happens when that explosiveness starts to slow? You telling me Ryan Garcia is an explosive athlete with fast twitch muscles. He's a Usain Bolt. He's not a Mo Farah. Something that I often say when I'm talking about these types of fighters. Great over 100 meters, 200 meters, maybe even 300 meters. 5,000 meters, Usain Bolt is not beating these guys. So what happens if Ryan Garcia has to fight at a high tempo and he's unable to maintain that speed and power throughout the course of the fight? We've seen him slow in the past. He's got a majority decision win on his record whereby he slowed towards the end of the fight against Morales. So, the question is, how does he carry that in the latter part of the fight against a very supremely technical, I don't want to use the word technical, but he's got high boxing IQ in Luke Campbell. So I think this will either be Ryan Garcia early or Luke Campbell on points. That's how I see this fight. It's much closer than the bookies and the narrative suggest. But if Ryan Garcia goes and destroys him in the first 2-3 rounds, a lot of people are going to think, yeah, this was never going to be close. But that's the way in which he wins the fight. The first 6 rounds, maybe 7 or 8 rounds. If after that, I believe Luke comes into it. So what can often happen is a guy will get knocked out early and people think, yeah, it was a mismatch. It wasn't a mismatch. He just happened to win it in that period where he had most chance of winning it. Let me know what you think, guys. Really excited about the fight. I think it's a really, really good, interesting fight. Interesting to see where Ryan Garcia is at. There's all this talk about the 4 kings in America now. They're talking about, we've spoken about this with the Vasyl Lomachenko video where we're talking about why people aren't clamoring for a rematch with Lopez. It seems like the American press are really keen on building up this idea of 4 kings, and with Garcia, Haney, Tank and Teofimo Lopez. This could potentially be a spanner in the works. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. God bless.